Greetings everybody, Gametrog here, and this video will show you how to hook up the original Model 1 SEGA Genesis using an RF box, or also known as an RF switch. You will need a Model 1 SEGA Genesis. You can tell it's a Model 1 SEGA Genesis if it has the volume control knob up on the top left. It's larger than a Genesis 2. And yours may or may not have high definition graphics written across the top. There are a couple variations of the Model 1 Genesis, and they both work the same. So either way, you're good. You will also need a power supply, in this case a 1602 or replacement. You will also need the RF box. And right here we have it. We got the two connections. The one on the right goes to the television. The one on the left goes to the system. And at the end of the video, we'll show you optionally how to get stereo out of the Genesis using a mini audio jack to RCA, going from the headphone port on the Genesis. Alright, let's take a look at the back of the Genesis real quick. So on the back, your SEGA may or may not have the EXT port, which is okay. It was never used, so we don't need that. You will be using the channel select port for 3 and 4. You will also be using the RF out port when using the RF box. We will not be needing the AV out port, but we will be using the power adapter port. Now let's grab our power supply and get it plugged in. Flip around the SEGA. Power port is right here, and it will simply slide right in. Easy peasy. Alright, let's now attach the RF port. Grab the Genesis. Using the proper end, it will plug right into the RF out port. It will slide right in. Piece of cake. Now that we got that plugged in, we can take a look at the channel select switch. And that can be on 3 or 4, and that's just going to pick the channel on the television that the game will display on. You can use either one, doesn't really matter. Now before we start, we can quickly test out the Genesis to see if it has power. Just grab your power supply, plug it into an outlet, and throw the on-off switch on. You get a light on the Genesis, you're in good shape. Alright, now let's move to the back of the TV. So what you're looking for is the antenna in ports. This particular TV has 2. Most TVs will have 1, but if yours has 2, that's fine. You can use either one. We're going to grab the RF box and take the cable and slide it right onto that port. Piece of cake. If your TV does have 2, they'll normally be listed as TVA, TVB, or something like that, and you will have to switch to the proper one when looking for the game. Now, if you have 1 port and it was being used for cable or satellite TV, you can actually unplug that cable and attach it right here to the bottom of the RF box, and that just screws on just like it's screwed onto the back of the TV. And this will allow you to continue watching TV when your system is off, and when you turn the system on, the game box will automatically switch to game. You're ready to go. Now let's take our SEGA Genesis and pop in a game. Let's do Sonic 2. Turn her on. We got power. We're good to go. Alright, let's grab the remote for the TV. And what we're going to be looking for is the input button. Now it could say input, or it could say source. Either one of these buttons will cycle through the input options that you noticed on the back of your TV. Flip the TV on. Now for the TV, we're going to be looking for the air channel. Now one tip is, if you see static, you're on the right channel. The air is the only channel that will display static. All the other ports, or inputs, will display a black screen if they don't have a signal. So once we got static, we're good, and now all we need to do is turn the TV to the proper channel. And that will be the channel that we had selected on the back of the Genesis. Once you find the right channel, boom, there's your game. It's time to play some Sonic. optional stereo sound from the SEGA Genesis. Let's grab the mini audio jack to RCA cable that we mentioned earlier. You can get stereo sound from the Genesis when using the headphone port located on the front. It's right underneath the volume knob. We're going to grab the headphone jack and we'll slide it right into the port on the front. Go ahead and make sure your volume is turned all the way up. To get stereo from the Genesis when using the RF box, you will have to attach the stereo cables from the headphone jack to an actual stereo or separate audio system. And then take your audio cables and plug them into any available port on the back of your stereo system. It doesn't matter if it's labeled Tape 1 or Phono or CD. That's just the selection you're going to pick on the front of the stereo. And you'll just turn the volume down on your TV. So you've got your game playing on the TV and you've got your audio coming through your stereo system. Troubleshooting. A lot of times if your game's not working, it's probably the game itself. The blade on the bottom that connects with the Genesis can get quite dirty. We can easily clean this by using some rubbing alcohol. Simply grab some rubbing alcohol, grab a Q-tip or cotton swab, dip it into the alcohol, and then scrub both sides of the blade, running back and forth along all the contacts. And this will normally result in a dirty Q-tip. And now that game is clean. Now that blade actually slides into an insert in the cartridge bay, which can also get dirty sometimes. So I like to take the cartridge while it still has a little bit of the alcohol from the cleaning and insert it into the SEGA a couple times to scrub the contacts on the inside. It's not going to hurt the system or the cartridge. The alcohol will evaporate quickly. Do that a couple times and now see if your game works. If it doesn't, try a different game. That should have you up and running. If you have any questions, you can reach me at Gametrog.com.